Well, hello, hi, and welcome to Reimaging Primary Storage, Unleashing the Value of AI-Enabled Storage. Now, today's exciting webinar is sponsored by Hewlett Packard Enterprise and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Jess Steinbuck. I'm with Actual Tech Media, and I'm so happy that I get to be your moderator today because I love unpacking and exploring this ever-evolving landscape of AI, right? I was thinking about this the other day. Do you remember that description that we all heard of the universe when we were young, that the universe is creating the space that it fills, right? And I was thinking that that sort of feels like what AI is doing right now, right? It's creating new spaces and then it's filling them with new possibilities. It is this ever evolving, infinite sort of conversation with no end in sight. And that is so exciting. And today we are exploring the impacts of AI on storage architecture and data management and how you can leverage this incredible new ever evolving conversation in these areas to power operational excellence. We have a great chat ahead of us. I cannot wait to dive in. So I'm going to start out with just a few housekeeping points and then we will get this show on the road. All right, let's start by taking a little tour. We always start with a guided tour of your audience console. Today will be no exception. We're going to hang out and explore our console together, starting with the questions tab. The questions window is the best place to get interactive, to get involved. We want to hear your questions as we go through. Again, AI, this ever-evolving concept, right? So the things we thought we understood, maybe there's some evolving nuance to them. Maybe something has changed. Maybe there's a different way of looking at things. There is no shortage of questions that I know are rattling around in your heads right now. So make sure that you get them out into that questions window today so that we can interact with our expert speaker and get some answers and get some discussions going. We're going to give it a little test run right now. I want to hear from all of you out there. I want to hear how your days are going. Thanks, Steven. Steven likes my backdrop. I like it too. It's also sound dampening. So that, yeah, two purpose, stylish and sound dampening. Gilbert, howdy on back. Matt, I see you. Jorge, we've got a whole awesome crew out there. Please keep those highs and hellos coming. We want to hear from you as we go through our day today. Now, that questions window is also where you're going to reach out if you do have any technical issues. So if something's not working with slides or audio, something drops out for you, the first thing you're going to try is a browser refresh. I promise that will cure most of the usual little nitsy things, right? But if that's not working for you, if the browser refresh doesn't help, you can post in that questions window and our crew will be there to help you out throughout our day today. We're here alongside you. All right, let's move on from that questions window. The next stop on our tour is the handouts tab. That handouts tab is absolutely chock full of cool resources and takeaways, things you are absolutely going to want to spend some time with once we wrap our conversation. So don't go anywhere yet, because we have a lot of cool stuff coming your way. But when we finish this conversation, you are going to want those resources. So make sure you've got them open, downloaded, ready to rock so that you can dig in a little bit once we close out our webinar. Our very last piece of sort of general housekeeping, and hey, you know, this is a pretty exciting one, is the $250 Amazon gift card that we do have as a prize giveaway at the end of our webinar. Now, you do need to be here in live attendance in order to qualify to win, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. If you are not sure what those T's and C's are, we have them linked for you in the handouts tab. So you just click on over to that handouts tab. We were just in there anyways. Scroll all the way down to the bottom, scroll all the way past that treasure trove of awesomeness, and down at the bottom there's a T's and C's for you, and that will give you all the full prize terms and conditions. All right, the very last thing I have before we jump into our session is another prize giveaway. Now, this is a prize for the best question asked. Here's the fun part about how we look at these. We are reviewing all the questions asked after we wrap up the webinar. So even if you ask a wonderful question today that we do not have time to get to with our incredible speaker, and we will get to as many as we can, but there's a lot to cover here. If we don't get to your question, you're still entered to win. So get those questions in. We'll review all of them. We'll choose that best question and we'll follow up with you. So $50 Amazon gift card going to the best question asked. And I want to challenge all of you to really go for that card today. So make sure you're getting those awesome questions in as we go through our session. Speaking of which, I think it's time we got started. Let's get our speaker on out here with me. There we go. Hey, Sanjay. This is Sanjay Jagan, Vice President of Product Management for HPE Storage, Hewlett Packard Enterprise. Sanjay, thank you so much for being here with us today. I know you got a lot to get through. So I'm going to step back. I'm going to hand things on over to you.
Thank you, Jess. And again, fantastic. You set it up perfect. I'm super excited to be out here, right? As Jess mentioned, I run the storage. I'm a vice president of product management for storage at HPE. And just to introduce myself, right? I've been doing storage for almost 25 plus years. I've been in this industry long enough to understand how people have built storage systems, how people have sold storage systems, what are the challenges that they go through, and so on and so forth. But one thing I'll say this: if you are in the business today, an IT provider, someone who's building IT solutions, I think this is by far the most exciting time to be. There is so much going on in the IT world right now, especially if you're looking at the infrastructure provider space and like people like us who are building the solutions that actually cater to some of the most important, challenging aspects of the industry today. It is super exciting. And when I say that, I really, really mean it, right? And that's one of the reasons why we're talking about this, right? If you look at it, the day-to-day experiences that we have in life today are continuously challenged, impacted in how we look at some of the solutions that are coming out. And hence the idea of how are we going to reimagine the primary storage, and how are we going to use the technology like AI to help cater to some of the modern needs. So let's jump into it right away and start talking about it. Right, there are some forward-looking statements, so keeping that in mind. Obviously, there are questions. Please put it in the Q&A as just mentioned. We'll get to you at the end of this, or if we cannot get to you, we'll get back to you on the answers where we can. As I was saying, there's a lot going on, and I think it all starts from all the applications and the workloads, right? If you look at in today, how we are glued to getting experiences. And if you look at what happens behind the scene, whether it's your mobile phone, whether it's your day-to-day interactions, whether you're trying to get some commute done, finding out your Uber rides or whatever it is, or watching movies on Netflix, it's all about the data and the experiences that you are going to gain through that data. So if you look at it, what the companies are trying to do and how the applications are evolving, it's all about leveraging this data and delivering this experience to you. And by that very nature, if you look at this, applications and workloads today are highly distributed because they are catering to billions of people out there. And that's what is driving this, right? And the idea here is when your data is distributed, it's everywhere. Edge, colo, data centers, you call it cloud, on-prem, you are going to now have challenges that you have to work with that basically allows you to build this infrastructure so that you can now serve this data through this application and this workload so that you can now deliver this experience to the end user. That is the fundamental shift in terms of how things are getting done. Now, at the core of this is data. And we know that the data landscape is changing dramatically. And if you look at just the pure amount of data that we are generating, in 2023, we generated 3.5 exabytes per day. That's a lot of data, right? The amount of data we keep generating and not deleting it. Like, if you look at your phones, you have never deleted a photo, right? You have so many apps, you have so much content. And that is putting a lot of strain in terms of what are those demands that the workloads have when it comes to driving this data growth and then being able to mitigate some of these challenges, right? When you talk about challenges, when you have so much data that is getting generated, it's very simple. How am I going to store this? How am I going to protect this? How am I going to mobilize this? Means I need to make sure the data is available where it needs to be. And then I need to be able to analyze this data. I need to be securing this data. I need to be able to put some governance around it. Those challenges are exponentially growing. And if you look at it, and there was an study done, like 76% of the IT the organizations, right, cannot keep up with the demands from the stakeholders that they have for their particular IT infrastructure. That's a lot of data that is not getting used or not getting monetized. And that, when you combine this with the complexity that we talked about, right, in terms of how the data is distributed from whether it's on the edge and the core, the hybrid stores, and making it easy and making it easy to manage, it's a huge challenge when it comes to navigating the modern data center, right? A data driven data center or a data modernization effort for your applications as well as your infrastructure and your storage. So that is what we're going to talk about today, how HPE is looking at addressing some of these challenges and reimagining storage, especially the primary storage, with leveraging some of the latest technologies, right? Including the AI, which is not only just used for your end user experiences, but how we can use those technologies to make it even better in delivering those solutions. So, when you look at storage, and like I said, right, I've been doing this for quite some time, right? If you look at in the late 90s and early like in the 2010 areas, right? The day where the IT job, if you look at it, if you ask any IT person, they would tell you, right, my job is to make sure that the infrastructure is up and running and the data is available to the application. The storage is basically where data lives, right? It was repository of your value. You want to make sure that your application data is protected and it's secure, because if you don't do that, you lose your job. But if you look at today where we are, and if you look at what data means, data is the lifeline. It is the creator of value, right? It is where data comes alive. So your infrastructure, definition of infrastructure has changed from what it was 10, 15 years ago to what it is today. Today, if you go and talk to the CIOs or the IT guys, they'll tell you, look, my job is not just to keep this infrastructure up and running, but it also is about how do I enable my company or my organization to derive tangible value out of this data and add to the company's bottom line. It is a creator of value for you, as well as, and hence, it is very important that you are addressing some of those changes and the shifts that are happening in terms of how infrastructure is looked at today, and are picking the right solutions to deliver on those things. Having said that, let's just quickly do a quick poll to hear from you, right? What is holding you back in meeting your evolving IT needs? We talked about some of the changes that are out there, right? I have listed out 3 different topics out here. And it will be great if you think that this is not something and you have something other, put it in the question tab, right? And we'll probably take at that data sets. But it is really important to understand what are your main challenges and how are you looking at your infrastructure and what needs to be addressed to help you achieve your goals. So we'll wait for a few seconds so that we can get some of you guys participating. I'm already seeing great amount of data coming in. And the way it's going right now, I think it's evenly balancing it out. But I also see a lot of you guys talking about how your application modernization is building is some of the biggest challenge, because the application landscape is changing. And that is absolutely true, right? The applications are more distributed. They are like, their performance scale requirements are different, and they are more dynamic. You don't know what is needed. They're microservices based, they are cloud native. And that is definitely, if I see all the responses, and then the responses are trickling in pretty fast, the application challenges and modernization is definitely pulling up. But so is the idea about data modernization and the idea of operational agility when you have such a complex IT infrastructure. So thank you for responding. And again, if you think that this does not line up with you, please put your comments in the Q&A box, and that would be nice for us to go and so if I look at this data points, and I think we all agree, right? The fundamental shifts in terms of whether it's data, whether it's applications, and the operational challenges, those are some of the big issues that are what is holding IT teams back. I talk to a lot of customers, I talk to a lot of people, and those are the 3 things that keep coming up again and again. So for me, this is a validation, and this is a story that we need to talk about, right? So let's go back to what we talked about from a storage perspective, right? And I want to do this because we can then understand the changes that are happening, right? Like if you look at the 20 years back, or how storage systems were built. Those were like engineered systems, right? Every company had their own little storage devices that they manufactured. They had ASICs on it. They had ways of doing technologies, building those proprietary hardware platforms so that they can give you an engineered system for a solution that you are looking for. Now that means that every solution requires different kind of technology, and it means that you now have disparate silos of solutions in your infrastructure need. Then came in these waves of technology refreshes, and then you talk about hyperconverged systems, which basically combine the compute and the storage side of it so that now you can have one integrated stack. But then it presented its own challenges in terms of how it scales and how it can eliminate some of the underutilized silos. So if you want to scale performance, how are you going to do that without scaling the underlying storage, and vice versa? And then this whole idea of doing this scale out composable systems, like a point in time, only scale what you need, and then be able to dynamically scale and be able to take advantage of some of this newer technologies so that you are now delivering a modern scale out composable architecture and an infrastructure solution. The idea here is very simple. It has to be able to deploy fast. It has to help you improve your agility and then simplify your infrastructure. So the trends in the storage landscape are very clear, right? We are seeing, as we see in the application, the demand on the storage and the way storage subsystems are designed is changing dramatically. And if you look at what HPE is doing, HPE is probably by far the leader when it comes to how we are reimagining the storage and delivering this next generation technology when it comes to primary block storage solution, right? Our approach is very simple. We want to build a new architecture that is optimized to leverage and use the resources in the most optimal way so that I can reduce the cost of your infrastructure. Second thing to do out here is, as you are building this new infrastructure up, how are you going to simplify the operational elements of it so that you can increase the productivity? The challenges that I hear from people are like, oh, if I need to provision new volume or a new storage or a new application, it takes me months or weeks to go and figure out where do I place this and all those things. This is where I need to figure out how we are building, and we have figured it out, how are we using the things like AI in helping you simplify some of these operational elements. The third thing is, how are you accelerating some of this innovation through speed and agility, like giving you like a platform as a service, or building in other microservices on top of this infrastructure elements that actually help you deliver what you want to do in terms of meeting your goals around innovation. And then obviously the last thing is, you are now driving and giving you a solution that helps you drive and meet your business outcomes. That's the HPE approach. So let's dig into that a little bit more, right? Now let's break this down into and I call this as a 3-layer cake, right? We talked about the optimization and the architecture. We'll get into this a little bit deeper. This is what we talk about, reimagining the storage with HPE Alletra Storage MP. Then you talk about how through GreenLake Cloud Platform, we are now taking the leadership around AI ops to the next level and bringing in that simplified hybrid multi-vendor, multi-cloud operational platform experience. And then the third thing is how we are integrating various aspects of your services, whether it's AI, analytics, IoT databases on top of this to deliver a complete enterprise intelligent storage architecture based on HPE GreenLake for block storage. When it comes to the primary block storage, I can confidently tell you that HPE GreenLake for block storage with Alletra MP is a radical shift in terms of how the design is, right? We have completely reimagined primary storage by building this purpose-built cloud-native architecture, right? And I can tell you this, we are the only company that offers this when it comes to block storage, where this disaggregated cloud-native architecture that helps you reduce your IT spend by 40%. And the way to do that is by how are we eliminating some of this over-provision capacity and performance without compromising on the SLAs. The second element is we have extended our leadership role. And when it comes to AI ops, HPE was by far the first vendor when it comes to building AI ops. But now we have taken this AI ops kind of functionality to be a full stack operational functionality, right? A lot of vendors then still do today when it comes to support experience. We have taken this to the next level through GreenLake Cloud Platform, where we can achieve 98% operational efficiencies by eliminating and automating day-to-day tasks, so that you as an IT operator can then focus on the things that you really need to do to help you deliver tangible value for your businesses. And then the third thing to this is, technology shifts happen, right? We saw this innovation in the trends where engineered systems to hyperconverge to scale out, right? You need to have a transformed ownership experience. This is very similar to what you see in the cloud, where you are now driving your requirements from an SLA perspective. I need this capacity, this performance, and let the companies and the IT providers like HPE take care of delivering a solution and not have to worry about tech refreshes, forklift upgrades. So how can I deliver a always on infrastructure that allows me to transform your ownership experience, integrate some newer components of technologies as the technologies evolve, whether it's CPU, drive, memories, NVMe fabric, into your infrastructure without taking a downtime, and thus eliminating some of these expensive refreshes, migrations, and then getting you better TCO up to 30%. Right? That's the idea of building and reimagining a primary storage solution and leveraging some of the assets. So let's talk about how we do this. If you look at storage systems today, right, it's a box. You have a backplane, right, and then you have drives and you have controllers. That storage systems design has not changed for years. I've done this for 20 years ago when I was at Sun, and to today, I see a lot of vendors still do that, right? Those two controllers, some of them are active, passive. The performance is bottleneck because all IOs need to go through those two controllers, or even one controller in an active passive configuration. The challenge here is when you want to scale, what do? You keep adding boxes. And that's where the old school legacy designs become a problem. So when you are building this intelligent scale out SDS data platform, what you need to do is reimagine the storage box that I talked about: backplane, drives, and controllers. Now think about this. That backplane is, in the modern world, an NVMe Ethernet fabric. Because of the technologies that we have today, and because of the advancement of NVMe technology, we now have the ability to now take this NVMe fabric and make that an extendable backplane that delivers significant performance, so that you're not bottlenecked by having only two controllers or number of drives on it. Then now you have that extendable fabric. You can add as many controllers that you want so that you can deliver the performance for your application. Then you can attach as many storage nodes that you want underneath it, so that you can now deliver the capacity and the data growth without having to scale or grow compute. So disaggregated way, I can scale compute, I can scale storage, I can stretch the fabric, so I can now deliver a disaggregated scale out data platform solution for my modern workload needs. Now, why is this important? It's very, very simple. And I'll explain this in the other goal here is, now you have built this fundamental architecture. Now you can now make it accessible, whether either they are block, file, object. So now you have built this single scale out data platform that allows you to serve different application workload needs while delivering on the SLAs that you need to be, whether it's performance, whether it's capacity, and whether it's scale, right? And the idea here is you are able to scale without limitation, right? I can scale capacity and performance independently. I can start small and I can scale, so I don't need to buy everything up front. I have one platform and one experience, right? So I can deploy file, block, or whatever it is. So it's a multi-protocol storage solution. I can eliminate some of these silos out there to increase my utilization. I can future-proof this, because now what happens is I can now introduce newer technologies, whether it's compute or disk or storage, into this cluster, without having to go and do a forklift upgrades. They can live side by side against each other, right? That's the value of this architecture. So now let's peel the onion a little bit and go into the next level of detail. What does that mean? So just like go back to my old point about like, so you have two controllers, you have your backplane, and you have, let's say, some bunch of drives in it, right? So that's the box you would typically have, right? Now, the idea behind this is architecture is now you are able to do a point in time scale as if you're doing an OpEx. So for example, let's say you need more capacity. You are just saying that I need more, like let's say 10 terabytes. You can just add 2 drives. Or I can say I can add 20 drives, right? Or whatever it is. I can keep adding drives in 2 drive incremental so that I can meet my capacity requirements without having to buy the whole JBOF or JBOD upfront. If I need to add more, I can just add multiple boxes on it so that I can scale and grow my capacity needs. I don't need performance, I just need capacity, so I'm just adding shelf. Now, tomorrow, newer drive technologies come out, like, let's say QLC. I want to mix and match. I can do that too, because they all are connecting to the Ethernet fabric. Now, if I have an application that requires more performance, what I can do? I can add one controller. Remember, this is not how storage used to work before, right? You would have to buy boxes, so you'd always have to buy HA controllers. We are breaking down that HA paradigm. So now you can add one controller increment, you can add 2 controllers, or you can add next generation CPUs to this. You can scale this dynamically to whatever you want so that you can meet your application workload needs, whether it's performance, whether it's capacity. You only buy point in time and thus reduce 40% and get better 40% TCO savings by eliminating over provision capacity and performance without sacrificing your SLAs. Let's take to the next level. Now, let's say I build this scale out architecture. Remember, I talked about how you had to have purposeful design for every workload and every this thing. You can now consolidate multiple workloads into a single scale out by creating this domain. So you can say, hey, my application 1, domain 1, application 2, domain 2, whether this is your block application, whether it's your file applications, you can start consolidating silos of your infrastructure into the scale out architecture by making sure that you are now still meeting your SLAs, you are creating those secure boundaries, you're creating those domains and failure domains so that they're not impacting each other's, whether it's performance and your needs. You can still do the scale out and thus be able to reduce your IT spend by about 30% by consolidating those silos, which are often underutilized, right? That's the main point. If you look at those silos, you probably bought more boxes because you needed performance, but you did not need storage. So all your underutilized resources can be consolidated into this single scale out platform, thus helping you lower the cost of your infrastructure. Now, this all adds up, right? Every time I talk to customers, people talk about, like, if we don't have budgets. So when you can start consolidating, when you can start buying point in time so you're not over provisioning, you can take those resources and apply it to some of the most important things that you need to do in your infrastructure, which is like, hey, I need resources to fund some of the AI projects that I need to do. So think about it from a business perspective, how this adds to your bottom line, right? You can now run diverse workloads because you're not pinned to a particular solution when it comes to what the application requires, whether it's a small block, a large block, whether you are throughput constrained or IOPS constrained or so on and so forth, right? You are now delivering a dynamic scale out infrastructure solution for your storage needs that meets your application's SLAs, right? You can support diverse workloads, including some of your modern cloud native mode 2 applications. The architecture of the future is what I was referring to out here, right? This disaggregated scale out architecture that built on common building blocks, right? We didn't talk about that, but the hardware in this architecture overcomes and eliminates some of the engineering purpose-built design. So it's a common standard hardware boxes, more like SDS. So you're not having engineered systems. So you can now not having worry about locked in You can scale, you can support different applications, you have the operational agility, you have the AI driven integration with public cloud, and so on and so forth, right? This gives you a architecture for the future, and this is what reimagining primary storage means. Not only that, I talked about the operational side of it. If you look at it, a lot of companies will talk about AI ops, but then they'll go into defaulting to the work that they do in terms of how support experience, case creation, and so on and so forth, troubleshooting, and so on and so forth. I think HP did that about 10, 12 years ago, right? We have evolved. We have now full life cycle management operations, right? In terms of how you set up your infrastructure, how you provision those workloads, how do you manage your fleet. Not only that, right? We have some AI-driven analytics, which allows you to now get insights into how your workloads are drifting, if at all they drift, what are the block sizes of your applications, and dynamically adjusting to it. You can model some of those workloads and figure out how they need to be placed. We also have something which we call intent-based provisioning that basically eliminates some of the mundane tasks you have to worry about. That, hey, if my application developer comes to me and says, I need 100 terabyte volume for my application A, B, and C, we will do the work and tell you exactly where to place that volume, and so that you can now go and confidently make sure that the SLAs of those volumes are met, right? We will go and figure out how to optimize the data layout so that you are now getting better value from efficient space savings and utilization beyond the 4:1 or whatever it is that all vendors do today when it comes to dedupe and compression, right? So this is where AI driven data management experience is becoming a critical factor when you talk about this big scale out architecture, how AI enables you to go and maximize the value that you can get out of this infrastructure. Lastly, right, I talked about transformed ownership, right? I can confidently say HP is the only company that offers 30-day satisfaction guarantee. We have guarantees around how much data we can store, the store more guarantee, the 4:1 that we talk about. HPE block storage solution is the only storage solution that gives you 100% data availability guarantee, right? All our software is always inclusive inside the subscription. You are not paying a nickel diming for every features. And the last thing we talk about is no forklift upgrades. And what does that mean? Let's say you buy a solution today. In 3 years, some of the technology gets refreshed, right? We see this CPUs and all those things. We will give you a free controller as part of your infrastructure so that you can now refresh your infrastructure in place without doing forklift upgrades, without causing data disruption, so that you can maximize the value of your infrastructure and stay current to the technologies, right? Free, non-disruptive controller upgrades. That itself will get you a 30% value savings when it comes to, and prolongs the life of your infrastructure. Like I said, right, this is about delivering an always on infrastructure. You can do this every 3 years so that you can keep your technology refreshed and you don't even have to worry about it. The infrastructure stays alive. We take care of all the complexity in the background. Not only that, I talked about how the hardware is a simple building block, standard building block. It does not have any proprietary ASICs or battery-backed NVRAM and all those things. That's the uniqueness of our design. What that means is I can take my software and run it on any third-party hardware or in the cloud, right? One thing that I was talking to a lot of our customers was, hey, we've been using cloud. We went hard 10 years ago when it was all about cloud first, cloud first. Now we are looking to repatriate. Can you help us with that? And the answer is very simple. If you look at, if I'm running the same solution in the cloud and in my data center, and I can have them connected together, I can import your cloud storage into this infrastructure, manage this under this GreenLake umbrella of your Alletra MP, and then able to replicate the data back into the on-premise world and help you repatriate, right? Or give you the other way around, where you have an on-prem data center, but you still have a need for certain volume and certain data sets to be in the cloud so that you can leverage some of the cloud resources. You can selectively now do all of those things through a common management platform, one experience, where you can say, I need this volume to be replicated out here, made available in this particular cloud, whether it's AWS today, tomorrow Azure, or further it could be Google, or it could be in a colo. I can make it available for you so that you have seamless data mobility and a centralized way to enforce your data and security governance. Right? You don't need to now go and adopt to a individual hyperscaler security or governance models. You can now enforce your IT models through a single control plane, right? While delivering same experience that you are used to in your on-premise data center, right? Not only that, you can now have this solution as a private cloud solution through HPE's private cloud GreenLake for private cloud business edition solution, right? For people who are used to this or know this, we used to offer this DHCI solution, which included the compute, network, and the storage stack all converged into a single rack solution. This aggregated scale out solution is now part of that offering. So now you can now integrate some of your edge solutions with HPE SimpliVity. You can have the core solutions with this new modern architecture. You can have the same software architecture run in the public cloud, so that now you can have an edge to core to cloud private cloud story that allows and that is operated and managed through a single cloud platform on GreenLake, and then gives you the same unified experience. Basically, what you're getting now is you're extending your core data center capabilities from your edge to cloud, where we are delivering the enterprise grade, always on availability. We are delivering unified, consistent application data services. We are going to give you the data mobility, the portability, the protection that you need, and give you the granular control of what and where this data is placed. And then not only that, we'll give you a cloud-based AI ops operational story through GreenLake Cloud Platform. This is what delivers a solution that is completely reimagined, that helps you understand how we are going to reshape the infrastructure and allow you to meet your modern IT environment needs. Not only that, the solution offers a fully integrated portfolio of compatibility, right? Whether it's your applications in the VMware, Microsoft, OpenStack containers, you name it, right? This is very, very critical, because if you look at what we talked about, how your application landscape is changing, how your modern applications are more microservices based, how are they relying on SDKs and APIs, we have those things covered for you. Not only for your IT operational side of it, but also from a DevOps perspective in terms of how they can leverage and integrate into building the solutions on this newly imagined disaggregated scale out architecture when it comes to storage. Right. Lastly, I think we are living in this day and age where sustainability is an important element, right? So now we are talking about how are we going to converge all of these innovations, whether it's performance, whether it's security, and still be able to address some of the ecological challenges when it comes to meeting our carbon emission footprint or your sustainability goals, right? The solution, like I said, is built on an eco-designed where it's a 2U box, space efficient, optimized solution that can scale in granular increments. So you're not over provisioning, you're not having over consumption of your power, rack space, and resources. The technology that we have underneath are using standard low power consumption processors, as well as gives you the best performance and energy ratio. Right? When I talk to people, one of the things that keeps coming again and again is like, hey, these are my needs. Can you tell me, can you help us? And I try to do this, right? I like to put a checklist and say, hey, what are the most important aspects when it comes to the decision criteria that are being made today when it comes to your infrastructure, right? People want and if I talk to the IT guys or the application guys, they're going to tell me about, hey, can I deliver predictable and consistent performance? Can I give you the integrated data protection? Is my solution full end-to-end NVMe so that I can future-proof it? Do I have the OS and the ecosystem support? Do I have the AI ops powered enterprise proactive support? Yes. Can this give me 100% data availability guarantee? Yes, we are the only vendor that can do that. Does it have a out of the box cloud based management operational experience? Yes. Can I use AI ops to help streamline some of the mundane day-to-day operational sides and also give you analytics into the environment so that I can have a better understanding of what my applications and workloads and infrastructure is doing? Absolutely. Can it deliver on hybrid cloud? Yes, the same solution that you're running in your data centers or in your colos or at the edge can now also run in a cloud or in a hyperscaler. You don't have to worry about the cloud lock-in, which is becoming a phenomenon. Can you now dynamically scale to meet my applications workloads? Because I don't know. A lot of the IT guys that keep, when I talk to them and when I talk to the customer, they talk about, right, we don't know what our application requirements are going to be in 2 years. That's how dynamic the environments are. So can you give me a dynamic infrastructure so that I can not have to worry about getting locked into a solution that does not meet my needs in 2 years? Absolutely. Can you deliver a sustainability story, right? Yeah, those are the things that come from non IT application guys, right? Those are your procurement guys. They have those business objectives that talk about, hey, sustainability or the flexibility of pay as you go OpEx models, right? Better cost pricing, TCOs, and investment protection against refreshes. If you look at this checklist and if you look at each and every element, this is what HPE GreenLake for Block delivers, and does that with delivering greater value for your solution, right? This is what the HPE approach is. This is what it means to reimagine storage. It is time for a hybrid approach, right? We need a intelligent storage architecture that is designed for the future, that can help you optimize the resources so that you can reduce the cost. When I say resources, I'm talking about IT resources and overcoming the silos that we talked about. That helps you simplify your operations so that you can deliver operational agility and productivity improvements, so that you're not spending time on things that you don't need to worry about versus going and spending those resources, valuable resources that you have in your organization, on things that actually mean and help you meet your bottom line goals. Can I help you accelerate innovations by integrating some of those services on top of this? Absolutely. It's store, manage, protect, and then be able to drive and become the partner for you to drive growth and your business outcomes. This is all about reimagining primary storage and unleashing the value of this new architecture that is AI enabled, AI ops driven architecture, disaggregated architecture. So with that, I know I spoke nonstop. We'll stop and take it from here. Jess?
I was just thinking that, Sanjay, it's so funny. I come in at the start and I talk for like 5 minutes straight and I'm winded at the end, and you just talked for 45 minutes and you kept my attention the whole time.
And Jess, that tells you, right, how passionate we are about this, right? This is important element, right? I said this and I mean it, right? I've been doing this for a long time, and this is a very exciting time if you are an IT provider, because there's so many things going on. The technology side of it, the AI piece of it, the newer technologies, the NVMe fabric and all those things. Yeah. It's amazing how technology has evolved. And if we cannot put that technology to use and deliver solutions, shame on us. But we are doing this. So I'm super excited about it.
See, and that is a wonderful approach, because right now we are in the situation where the possibilities are really endless, and you are demonstrating that. You are showing what is possible. And speaking of, actually, before we jump into our Q&A, I do want to point out to everyone in the audience right now that we have a poll question up. So now we have a question for all of you. You got to listen to Sanjay go through everything that he's fascinated by and gets him excited. And now we want to know from you what would be helpful for you in terms of a follow-up, because there's a lot of directions that you could go go with this conversation in lots of ways to take that and explore. So, are you more interested in maybe getting that data sheet? You want to start out with some demos? Do you want to, get your hands into the sandbox yourself? Whatever's going to be helpful for you, click on the poll right now. And in fact, poll's the wrong word. Think of this as like a Christmas shopping list early. What is something that would be helpful for you in follow-up to this wonderful conversation that we had with Sanjay? Sanjay, one of the things that I noticed while you were talking, and you hit on this pretty hard right at the end, a lot of the questions coming in were based around this idea of resource. We had several questions identifying, hey, having enough IT personnel is really tough. We had someone call out that in education, higher ed, that's really tough. Somebody bringing up that small teams were really tough. And a lot of what you focused on today was how we can streamline operations to do more with the existing teams we have rather than requiring new teams.
Yes. And I think, Jess, if you look at this, right, I say this from my experience, right? The newer millennials or the newer guys that are coming into this world always want to do sexy stuff, right? They want to build this applications and AI. The role of an IT operation person has evolved significantly in the last 20 years, right? Because of all the changes that are happening, the cloud and everything else. And finding those talent is not easy. But also that is something that we need to do better, right? Like I said, right? AI ops is a term that every vendor throws out. But what is behind the curtain? And I'm happy to do another presentation that goes into all the AI ops aspect of it. But AI ops to me means a lot of stuff, right? How can we use some of the technology and build models that eliminate some of these mundane tasks so that you don't have to worry about those, and then take our valuable resources and make them do things that they actually help with. I struggle with this in my org too, right? I want my team to go and do things that are actually bringing value rather than do a lot of stuff that is more mundane tasks. If I can use technology to do all the mundane piece and free up those resources, that is intangible in terms of value it brings to the table. And hence the need of AI ops and leveraging AI to deliver models that help you with those things, right? I saw some comments and questions. I think one of them was Paul, where he talks about how finding good talent with AI in their background is very, very difficult. And I agree with you. Hence, the things that we are doing, right? We are integrating some of these AI models inside. And also, if you look at what we announced at Discover, we announced one of the things that we did was we announced a complete end-to-end starter kit, when we call it private cloud for AI, which takes care of putting all those components that you need for AI in a single stackable solution so that you can get started. You just get powered on, right? It's simplifying the infrastructure challenges, pre-building those systems so that you can now have a starter kit that gets you going on this.
That's really interesting. So do you think that maybe one of the stopping points that organizations are facing is they think, AI is the bright, shiny tool, but they think because they don't have a head of AI ops that they've already hired, that it's out of reach for them and not possible?
You would be amazed how many times when I talk to customers, people say, hey, we've been told to go and do this with AI. We don't know how to get started. Oh, we have a very high level understanding, but we don't even know what our data looks like. A lot of people have a lot of data, but the problem here is AI is a very fancy word. But if you don't understand your data, if you don't even have insights into your data, how are you going to monetize it? How are you going to derive intelligence through AI out of it, right? So it's a multi-step process. If you want to embark on this journey, and I tell this to all my customers when I talk to them, let's put together a plan for your data. Let's figure out what is it, the outcomes that you're trying to do. And then let's figure out and working on what solution do you need. The good thing is with HPE, the company, I think we are by far one of the two companies between us and Dell that we can do network, compute, storage, AI. We have the expertise to deal with each and every aspects of this and be able to give you a solution that meets your need.
So what would you say is kind of the key standout element for what you're bringing to the table?
Reimagine your infrastructure needs, because what you're seeing today, we are in such a rapidly changing environment
Hmm.
that if you're not planning for this, and if you're just looking at from hindsight and trying to see like, oh, I need this much storage, you are doing disjustice. You need to start thinking about how are you going to be able to now set your infrastructure, your storage, to cater to some of these demands that are going to show up, and it'll show up in a very rapid way, right? This thing is going to come like a freight train, and it's going to come fast.
And it is important. I think what you said earlier is really key. Is this idea of not letting sort of, whether it's the getting distracted by the sparkles and the cool sound of it, and also not getting overwhelmed by, not necessarily thinking that you have the right things in
Mhm.
place, but instead actually taking those action steps. And on that note, what would you suggest is sort of when everybody closes down their webinar browser in just a few minutes here, way sooner than I would like, and walks on about their day, what would you want them to be doing as a step one to get started? And then in particular, how can they move forward with HPE?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, Jess. And I think it's going to be different for every different people, right? Depending on what kind of organization and the challenges that you have. I think the first step that I'll do is organizationally figure out what and where you need to go, and then start planning on things. And whether if you don't have a data modernization story, put one in together, right? Strategy. Then you talk about applications. Similarly, those 3 bullet points that we asked, right? Those are, depending on which state you are from a company perspective, you may be having the application challenges first, or you may have a data challenges first, or you may have an operation. You're going to hit all 3 of them. It's the question is which one is the most important to you, and
Yeah.
then build on that. Put together a holistic plan so that you are now thinking about this and the growth where you need to be in 3 years, 5 years, and mark my words, the world is going to be different in 5 years. So plan for it, right? That's where the investment protection component is very, very important. You don't want to have solutions that actually don't meet your needs. That's why the architecture of scaling and be able to scale dynamically on performance or capacity is important.
Hmm.
Like that is, we are the only storage vendor that does this architecture, disaggregated architecture when it comes to block storage. Yes, there are some other solutions when it comes to file, but on the block side, there is a reason why a lot of these legacy storage solutions across different organizations that I've worked with also, their designs are still the same, right? The HA pair, and they haven't changed because it takes a reimagination of how we want to see storage to build this new architecture. That's why I say it's a purpose built architecture for cloud native architecture. And we have done that. We have invested in this because we see this as the future.
Well, we hear that elasticity coming up all the time and that agility, and I think that that constant evolution and growth is not just a nice to have anymore; it's an absolute requirement.
Yeah.
And so, really cool to see HPE kind of not just keeping up with that, but really getting out in front of that, and then turning around and enabling other people to take that step forward and to find that
Yeah.
agility and elasticity. So I think that's
Yeah.
awesome. We've got some great ways to get started up on the screen here. Is there something that you really love in terms of demos or articles? What would you do to learn a little bit more?
I would love to talk to them. I can get my team in, but I think the 3 assets that you have are
Hmm.
most important just to people to get started in understanding this, right? The other thing that I'll say is, and this might be very cliche, but try and get in touch with some of us so that we can work with you and be able to help you, right? It doesn't mean that you need to buy anything right now if you don't have it, but just to get that planning going, that discussion going, so that you can understand what is being done is very, very critical and important, right? If you have specific needs, get hold of your an HP person in your area. They will connect you to the resources within my team or whatever it is, so that we can get going. And I think the other thing that we are trying to do is make it easy for you to get some of these demos as part of our cloud offering and others, so that you can do a test drive. So keep an eye on being on the HPE website so that you can keep learning some of those things, because it's rapidly evolving.
Well, I think, one easy way to do that is click on demo right there on your
Yeah.
screen. Click on demo and let the team know that that's something that you're interested in getting involved in. Sanjay, I think honestly the conversation that we've gone through today has been so genuine and clearly something that you have a lot of passion for, and I want to thank you for sort of bringing us along into that. And I know that there's a ton that we didn't get to. I hope you're going to come back and join us, because I want to be in that webinar that you're going to go through and unpack all of AI ops for us, because that sounds fascinating.
Trust me, I can talk about this nonstop, right? Because I truly believe, this is fun, right? I have been in this industry and I love the challenges. And every time when we have those technology innovation phases, right, it's fun to be part of that story so that you can ride that wave. If you are someone like me who enjoys this challenges, this is a fun time to be.
It absolutely is. I think that's the key takeaway from all of this, is there is fun to be had here. There is a lot to be excited about. And Sanjay, I want to thank you for giving us a few more things to put on our to be happy list. So thanks for being here with us today, and thanks for a great conversation.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate everybody. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
And everyone who's still getting questions in, keep those coming, because as Sanjay mentioned at the start of our time together, we are going to make sure that all of that gets sent to the HPE team, so you will get answers back. So if you have a lingering question that is still rolling around in your head, now is the time to get that out. I do also want to remind you that I know that there were a lot of questions that we didn't get to in that Q&A that went by so quickly, and there was just so much content to cover. So again, all those questions going to HPE, all of you will get answers back. Sanjay mentioned that there's 3 handouts in the handouts tab. Go figure. Of course, that's where they are. So I want to just run through those with you very quickly before we wrap up. There's a brochure there on the top 12 reasons to choose HPE GreenLake for block storage. That really is an important, really looking into Alletra Storage MP, so you can kind of explore a little bit more of what we were just hearing from Sanjay. Really, really well written and easy to follow. Same thing goes for the solution brief, HPE GreenLake for block storage, built on HPE Alletra Storage MP. This is, again, that mission critical storage at mid-range economics. I love that. I love that idea of hitting what you need without breaking the bank. I'm sure that is really appealing to a lot of you out there. And then there's a technical validation analyst report, HPE GreenLake for block storage, built on HPE Alletra Storage MP. Again, really looking at how to break that kind of traditional paradigm, that traditional understanding that we have of managing storage in the data center. And this is what Sandra was talking about. There's so much to be excited about and really feel happy about, but that involves us kind of getting outside the box. We have to break, this is how we do it, and try something different and new. And that is what really is truly opening these doors. So make sure you're getting all of these handouts, download them. There's also a link just to the HPE website, a great place to spend some time exploring. As Sandra was saying, the best way to kind of jump in is to reach out to the team and say, hey, I want to learn more. What can we do to get started, and what should I do as my next step? There's lots of great articles, videos, tons of resources for you. So make sure you spend a little time with HPE before you close out your day today. Well, I am going to move things over to this portion of our day here, and I know that is making everyone very excited as they head on out about their days. We have a $250 Amazon gift card going to a prize winner who is here with us, somebody lucky and present at the webinar, and that special somebody is Steve Novak from Connecticut. Congratulations to you, Steve Novak of Connecticut. As always, we will be in touch about claiming that $250 Amazon gift card after we wrap the webinar. Well, with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to once again thank Hewlett Packard Enterprise for making this webinar possible, especially to our wonderful speaker, Sanjay. You have truly given us a lot to think about today. We talked about this at the top when we started our time together, and I was kind of saying, I get a little lost sometimes in this concept of AI creating the space that it fills, like the universe. It's just this ongoing and constantly evolving cloud of possibilities. And I think today we really got to take a step forward into practical applications for that, and not allowing that to become something that is overwhelming, but instead allowing that to become something that we can take action on, and really starting with that world of storage and data management as a way to make that a tangible step forward, as a way to reduce some of the pressure on our resources and take advantage of the opportunities that are available with AI. So a really exciting chat. And of course, I want to make sure that I send my biggest high five and thank you to all of you, because these conversations don't happen without you. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day, for joining in this chat, and for being a part of our discussion. I hope that I'll get to see you all at a webinar again soon. And until then, I hope you have an absolutely beautiful end to your day. Thanks all.